Lordvic Aduda, it's our pleasure again to have you this week at LTN Sports. Now we are in the CHAN mood. Can you kindly walk us through the history and evolution of CHAN tournament?
Well, I think it was CAF's decision to come up with a tournament where the local-based players would showcase their talents. Given that during AFCON, the national teams usually get, an opportunity to invite their professional players who play football outside the continent. So it was an opportunity for the locally based players, while at the same time, CAF thought it prudent to ensure that by creating CHAN, it was going to give the member associations an opportunity, yeah, to improve the standards of their local leagues. Yeah, that was the prime reason why CAF decided to come up with CHAN.
What importance does it hold for the local based players?
Well, I think it is important to the locally based players because it is a window, yeah, through which the scouts, usually during the CHAN tournament, the scouts come around, or those who do not manage to, travel to the hosting country or countries, able to follow their proceedings through, live broadcasting. While at the same time, it also gives the local players an opportunity to improve, on their talents during their local league matches in order to make the cut-off point or to get the selection to the national team. With respect to the classification of the national teams, we find that FIFA or CAF decided that all the players, all the national teams with the senior professional players are more or less referred to as the national A team. Yeah, the players who apply their trade in the local-based leagues usually form the national B team. Now, playing in CHAN also gives the local players an opportunity to get selected, mostly those who are still under 23, into the Olympic teams. It is a good platform for the players. It is a good opportunity also for the member associations, to use the CHAN platform to also enhance the standards and the brand of their local leagues.
You've categorically talked about its core objectives, but has it lived to its expectations?
Well, I believe it has, yeah, in certain aspects and in different countries, depending on how each and every country, takes the seriousness with which they organize their CHAN teams. Look at, for example, Senegal. Yeah, after winning the last edition, quite a number of their players got an opportunity to be enlisted in full-time professional, contracts, which enhances, the player welfare. At the same time, it also enables, the respective member associations, particularly the leagues and competitions departments, to be able to professionalize the leagues. Because if you do not professionalize the leagues, then it means that the resultant national team will not be worth its salt,
What are the biggest challenges in terms of competitiveness, visibility, and relevance?
Nothing really to worry about because it is a second tier, competition organized by CAF. So a lot of emphasis is also laid on AFCON rather than CHAN. But I think with what CAF is doing at the moment, you realize that they have even increased the amount of prize money, that the winners, I think, will have much more this time round than they have had in the previous editions. Much more to the fact that even for participation, leave alone the winners, yeah, even for participation, I believe the list would be about an equivalent of about 29 million or something, yeah, which will be given to those countries or those teams which at the end of it shall not have gone beyond the preliminary rounds.
SG, kindly differentiate for our listeners and viewers the difference between CHAN and AFCON in terms of structure, the player eligibility, how we talked about it, and the impact onto the national teams.
To begin with, the player eligibility, there is a restriction, yeah, with regards to players allowed to turn out for CHAN. That is exclusively for players who are participating in the local domestic leagues. Unlike in AFCON, where each country is allowed to, field all their players, yeah, both playing in the local leagues as well as the professional players. Two, you mentioned something about structure.
Yes.
Well, AFCON, we have how many teams? 24. And in CHAN, it's more or less, I believe it's more or less the same, yeah, because initially AFCON was much more competitive because we had to contend with the top 8 in the continent before, it was expanded to include more teams. And I think it is also, with the respect to CHAN, to AFCON, there's a lot of input by the respective national federations, yeah, because during AFCON qualifiers, it means that they have to, put everything in order, because we realize that several players turning out for the national A teams, come from different countries or ply their trades in different countries. So it requires a top-notch kind of organization by the respective national federations in order to get all the players, yeah, together. Or two, it means that they must also have very vibrant, technical committees or scouting, department, who should be able, yeah, to keep tabs on the performance of the respective players. One, there is need to have a data. Each country needs to have a data of, all their professional players. Two, they also ought to have, vibrant technical committee, surveillance, as well as good scouting departments, who should be able to keep track on how these players who ply their trade outside the country are doing in their respective leagues abroad. So without that, you find that we've had, for example, we've had very crazy, situations in the past where, because we are not, up to speed with the organizational structures, we've been able to just call anybody, so long as he plays, he's a Kenyan by virtue of one of the parents being Kenyan or whatever it is. Because it is foolhardy to get a call-up simply because you are playing somewhere in Norway or in Sweden for a third divisional team. I mean, what is the impact really when you are now pitted against players from other countries like the Sadio Manes, you know, and the rest. So that disparity is there, one. Two, I think it also gives an opportunity, a learning opportunity for the member associations in Africa to be able to up their game so that the quality of AFCON, you know, is raised. Yes.
You described it as a second tier. Is it undervalued as compared to AFCON? And what do you think can be done, in your own opinion, to
Well,
elevate its status?
it's not a question of describing it as a second tier. Of course, it is a second tier, you know, and it cannot. They can only improve, yeah, but not to an extent that it will also demean the status of AFCON, right? So, for example, I've mentioned earlier there that CAF, for instance, has raised, you know, the amount of money, yeah, prize money for this year's edition of CHAN. That is part of motivation because, one, the countries invest, the countries invest in the infrastructure, the countries invest in the player training and all the stuff, you know, compared to what happens in AFCON. Yes.
But SG, do you think, in your own personal views, that our national team Harambee Stars are adequately prepared for this competition?
From where I sit, I believe that much ought to have happened, but we are there, 3 days, 4 days to the kickoff of the tournament. So we will see what happens effective the 3rd of next month. Anything that ought to have happened or should have happened is now water under the bridge. But I believe it is going to, you know, give an opportunity to assess, you know, the kind of input that the member, the federation, you know, put into the preparations or lack of preparations for the national team.
Tell us the key gaps that you really think, either structurally or technically, that needs to be addressed for us to be in this tournament competitively.
Well, it is not a one-stop gap. For us to be in this tournament, because this is not just going to be the first and the last CHAN tournament, but I believe that we need to do a lot more, yeah, in trying to ensure that we enhance the standard of our local league. Because the players who are selected to join the national team to participate in CHAN are derived from the clubs participating in the local league. So if we have a substandard league, then it will definitely reflect in the kind of national team's performance, yeah, during CHAN. So it is, to me, I believe that we need to start by encouraging, you know, professionalism in our local clubs. We need to encourage professionalism in the way we run our local league, which will eventually translate into the quality, yeah, local-based players. You know, I will take an example of, say, Tanzania. Tanzania's league has seen an influx of top-notch, you know, professional players, who in turn have equally, ensured or made it possible for the local Tanzanian players to up their game. That is very evident in the just concluded Three Nations tournament, where even yesterday Tanzania emerged victorious against the defending champion Senegal. I mean, if the standards of the local-based players of Taifa Stars was nothing to go by, then it would not be possible for them to, send out such kind of a performance. Of course, it is a pre-tournament, but there are lessons that they have learned having participated or played those 2 matches. They ought to have played 3 matches, but unfortunately, our own national team bolted out of the tournament, and that gave an opportunity to the remaining 3 teams to play at least 2 matches each.
But you've previously played a very key role in representation, especially when as the SG and also as the CEO of Gor Mahia. Could you kindly differentiate for us the 2 continental championships that Police and Nairobi United would be competing in?
Police, having won the 2024-2025 league champion in Kenya, qualified to represent the country in the next CAF Interclub Champions League tournament, which kicks off in about a month. Yeah. Nairobi United, having won the domestic knockout tournament, Christian Mozart bet, managed to get an opportunity to represent the country in the Inter-Club Confederations Cup tournament. There is a variance because the Champions League is only for all the champion clubs who manage to win their domestic leagues. The CAF Confederations Cup are meant for the winners of the domestic knockout tournaments. Like in the case of Kenya, we find that we are going to be represented by a team right from the second tier of the Kenyan Premier League. That necessarily gives, lowers more or less the expectations, because it has not been, the polite way is to say that the Nairobi United, nothing demeaning, players have never been exposed to that top flight football. Now, because they have not even had the opportunity to play in the Premier League, in as much as they qualified, to join the Premier League of 2025-2026 season. So that in itself, the fact that the players have never, been at that particular level is going to be a disadvantage to our representatives in CAF CC. Well, Police, I believe, must have carried or are carrying at least 1 year experience, having participated in last year's CAF CC, where they also performed well in, from where I sit, because losing 1-0 to Zamalek, in as much as Zamalek's standards have also plummeted a little bit, but Zamalek is a big team, with a lot of experience. So that, I think, was also a plus to Police. And that might have also given them the impetus, to try and, participate, which culminated in their sterling performance, eventually making them emerge as the league winners for the 2024-2025 season.
In the European space, there is Champions League. Between these two African continental tournaments, which one would be compared to the level of the Champions League?
CAF CL is the Champions League. CAF CC is Europa.
So the Police FC would be participating or rather competing in the Champions League.
In the Champions League.
Oh, all right. Yeah. For easy understanding for the people who don't know how these tournaments can be described. How can the clubs in Eastern Africa become more competitive in these continental spheres?
Well, I believe that Tanzania is showing the way. We did try to give it our best a couple of years ago, and those attempts were curtailed at some point. I don't need to belabor going back to what happened, but we need to take cue from what is happening today in Tanzania, because you find that the top two clubs in Tanzania now more or less match the North Africans, yeah, cent to cent. You find that when the top North African teams, including the past defending champions, the Alalis, the Zamaleks, the Pyramids, when they come down to Tanzania, they are always not so sure of the outcome of the matches. And in an event that they win, they've never won with a margin more than 2 goals. At the same time, we find that the two teams, Simba and Yanga, unlike the previous days when teams from this region were assured of soaking in 4, 5, 6 goals or 7 goals, this time round you find that these two teams go to an extent even winning some of those matches in the dreaded North. Yeah. So we need to copy what is happening in Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda. Yeah. Those three really need to up their game. The other leagues are not really up to the level that we can say. It will take them a bit of time. The Burundian, the Djibouti, the Somali league, has a long way to go. But the three leagues, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, I think have some good prospects. If only that we could concentrate on ensuring that we develop our local leagues and we invest more in our top clubs and professionalize the structures or the management or the daily running of these clubs.
Talking about TFF, where personally I believe you got very many friends in the TFF or in the TPL. What difference do they do in football development and club commercializations that give them the competitive edge in Eastern Africa?
Well, they basically copied what we had started in Kenya at some point. Because I remember we were the first to professionalize our league. Yeah, when I think in 2006, yeah, 10 clubs broke away from the then Kenya Football Federation, yeah, and formed a group which eventually led to the formation of the Kenya Premier League Limited. I remember having been part and parcel of that committee, the senior management committee then. We had to, give mandate to some of our members to go out and seek, good practices or the best practices from some of the flourishing leagues then. So we did earmark the PSL in South Africa, and we sent 3 of our representatives to go and study what was happening or how the PSL was structured. They came back, and that basically formed the genesis of the Kenya Premier League. Now, after the end of the mandate of the Kenya Premier League, then we went back down the drain again. So we need to now take cue and go back to where we were, because that is exactly what TFF has done. Yeah, TFF has given the autonomy to the Tanzanian Premier League Board to be able to, professionally run the league. There's nothing new, because like what we used to do, the board at KPL, the board, the TBL, has an opportunity to engage with professionals who run the different departments in the league, and that's how they have managed to solicit for more funds into the league. There's different sponsorships. You remember they have the flagship broadcasting partner in the name and style of Azam. They have a title sponsor in the National Bank Limited of Tanzania, and once there's enough money flowing into the league, it means that the clubs all participating in that league will also have enough, money, and with enough money they can be able to recruit and pay and maintain some of the top flight, players from across the board. We also find that, for instance, in Tanzania, the TFF has allowed each club to recruit up to about 12, foreign players, unlike what happens in Kenya, where we only have, a maximum of 5 players. So the argument that many foreign players might not give, the local players an opportunity to develop is neither here nor there, because the fact that they have brought quality into the league means that even the corporates will be endeared, in ensuring that they put their money into the sponsorship of the league and the clubs. So that basically is the difference between what TFF is doing currently and what is happening locally, if I may restrict myself to the Kenyan situation.
How much of their success can be attributed to media rights, club licensing, and private investment structures?
Almost 100%, because I am aware that Tanzania, or the TFF, working in conjunction with the Tanzania Premier League Board, have ensured that the club licensing requirements are fulfilled by all the clubs before the start of any season. Okay? 2, it is the difference between what happens there and here, ensures that in Tanzania, for instance, the clubs, the management of the clubs are aware of what it means to exploit the media rights. Not basically the media rights, but all the rights, because we have about 8 components of the rights. The media is just one of the components, because even in the media, you can segment it into live broadcast. You can have recorded, you can have radio, you can have live radio, you can have recorded, and many aspects of the rights. So Tanzania, because of the professionalism exposed by both the board and TFF, yeah, has made the clubs to also professionalize, their daily management of their clubs, and that endears everybody, particularly the corporates. Yeah. Now, they have also realized what is not happening in Kenya, and that is private sponsorship. Not actually sponsorship. Those are private investments. Yeah, like Mo Dewji, because of the professional structures in Simba, yeah, owns 49% of the shares and left 51% shareholding to the members of Simba. GSM has also done the same with Yanga, and that has enabled members. Yeah, Yanga and Simba have members, and they have fans, and they have supporters. In Kenya, we have fans and we have supporters. We don't have members, save for FC Leopards, who probably have about 6,000 registered members or so. Between 6 to 10, I don't know. Yeah, but it's basically not more than 10,000 members of FC. Unlike Yanga, which currently boasts of more than 260,000 members, paid up members, because that also gives an opportunity to the club, administration to also, use membership as part of revenue streams, Two, when it comes to things like merchandising, it becomes easier for them to make, good profit from the sale of replicas, which are all geared towards, adding more income into the clubs. And with more income in the clubs, it means that the clubs are able, to easily manage their operational costs, administrative expectations, as well as maintaining top-notch players and technical bench.
What would you think can be done, SG, to ensure that we do have private investment in our local league?
Well, we need to, those charged with the responsibility of running the clubs in Kenya must wake up. Because it's not just a question of ensuring that the players train during the weekday, over the weekend, they are able to, honor the fixtures, participate in the local league. It is much more than what happens. And basically that is what is happening in Kenya. The second thing happening in Kenya is look at the number of, the composition of the 18 teams in the Premier League. How many of the teams in our current league structure are community-based? Almost 3/4 of those teams are either parastatals or quasi-government, owned teams, which means that their core business is not to run football. They are more or less being treated as welfare outfits with respect to the organizations of the parastatals. That is why some of the teams, cannot afford to recruit some of the top-notch players because they are unable, or they would be unable to pay the kind of salaries or the allowances that such kind of players would want or would require, because they are restrictive, payment structures. There is no way that a player could be earning much more than a CEO or an MD of a parastatal company. So this inhibits, the kind of quality and the opportunity now to attract private investors, into these teams, because of their legal structures. Yeah? How do you, for instance, put your money into Ulinzi Football Club or Bandari Football Club or Tusker Football Club or Mara Sugar, yeah, or APS Bomet, you see? So that also makes it a little bit difficult, for private, investment into the teams. We only have, for instance, in Kenya, we can mention Murang'a Seals, and we can mention Kakamega Homeboys, and probably this time round we might also mention Nairobi United as the clubs with private, ownership. But the rest, including our famous two clubs, cannot at the moment, be classified as, and the rigmaroles involved in these two teams or two clubs, Gor and FC, also makes it impossible, near impossible for people, interested in investing in the teams. I remember way back in 1997, the then chairman Leslie Okudo tried to come up with an idea of turning Gor Mahia into a private company. I mean, the guys, the so-called fans or the owners, really detested that, and they sent Chairman Okudo packing with his grand idea, which decades later has been picked up by both GSM and Mo Dewji just across the border. And we are seeing what kind of results such kind of an arrangement churns out.
Broadcasting rights are major revenue stream globally, and you've really broken it down. But I still feel it's underexploited in African football setup. What's your take on the current state of media rights in CHAN?
Well, all those are pulled together under CAF. The respective teams do not have a say, yeah, because it is a CAF tournament. So CAF is the one that exploits the rights on behalf of the member associations, and that is why you find that year in, year out, they can dole out money, yeah, in terms of prize monies and the rest, because such kind of monies come from the partners, yeah. Because in CHAN you are not allowed to exploit your own as a member, as a participant. Unlike, for instance, in the club inter-club championships, CAF allows the participating teams to exploit their media rights during the first and the second preliminary round of matches. But as from the group stages, all the media rights revert back to CAF, so that they are exploited by the media partners or broadcasting partners of CAF.
This is a very interesting one. What model should African Federation adopt to ensure equitable sharing of commercial revenue, especially for grassroots development? Something that I know you've been trying to champion, the sustainability of clubs through grassroots development.
Well, grassroots development of football is a challenge to almost 3/4 of the member associations in Africa, save for the leagues in the northern part of Africa, and a bit of what happens down south under SAFA, because we have not developed proper administrative structures with respect to grassroots football. For instance, If we take the example of Kenya, I really laughed 2 days ago when I heard that a sub-branch somewhere was going to participate in a mini-league to determine the winners of a mini-league for 2023-2024 season. We are closing the 2024-2025 season, whereas yesterday a sub-branch completed a mini-league for 2023-2024 season. Where does that happen? When will that same sub-branch kickstart its 2024-2025 season? The National Executive Committee of FKF has already released the schedule for 2025-2026 season. But we find that within their ranks, there's one of their sub-branches, yeah, which is still dealing with 2023-2024 season. There are several sub-branches and branches who are yet to even complete the 2024-2025 season. In the next 1 month, we are commencing the 2025-2026 season. So with that kind of confusion and disparity, how do you plan? Even if you want to go out there to sell your products. So you are selling your products to the corporates, that what will they have in return? 2, because of lack of strict adherence, say, to club licensing, we find that there's a lot of chaos, especially at the grassroots level, where there are moments when very interesting, stories you hear that a player turns out for Club A, plays 6 matches, gets lost for 2 months. When he comes back, he turns out for Club B. So, I mean, really, with such kind of, what do you do? Yeah? But I believe that if we are strict on ensuring that the clubs, adhere to the requirements of club licensing, then with the FIFA Connect now, I believe that we can be able to trace, the registration and the development path of players. Then we need also to train, manage or to organize several management workshops or training for club administrators at that lower level. Because from where I sit, there are certain clubs that they are called clubs, but you will find that the person in charge of those clubs basically is a coach. If you want anything from the club, they will tell you the coach is the one. He is a coach, he is a treasurer, he is a secretary, he is a chairman. I mean, he's everything. So really, what can we be able to do with such kind of, amorphous, setup of clubs? So there's a lot of confusion that happens down there that makes it impossible, for the sharing, if any, of any funds that can be used for player development from the grassroots. So we must first and foremost fix the administrative gaps, with respect to the management of clubs, particularly at the grassroots level, in order that we can have a seamless relationship that with the time can endear, corporates, because without money you can't run football. Football is a capital intensive sport. Yeah? So without enough funds, many clubs will go under. Two, the player welfare will be at its lowest level, and there will be lack of motivation. So once there's lack of motivation, you are quite aware that a number of top talents have, because of pressures of life, decided to forgo football and some of them getting into manual, casual jobs, so that they can be able to put bread on the table, which, yeah, ideally should not be the case, because the football talent really pays. Yeah, but if we do not have proper structures that can endear, corporate sponsorship into football, then we will perennially be losing top talents.
SG, as we are concluding, could you kindly tell us the importance of club licensing criteria in our setup and the reason why it needs to be implemented fully?
The club licensing criteria needs to be implemented fully. For instance, if we talk about the financial criteria, the clubs are supposed to show, yeah, the ability and capability to finance their activities, including, player welfare in terms of salaries and allowances. But because it is not fully implemented in Kenya, you will find certain clubs participating in the Kenyan Premier League going for months on end without paying players. So what do you expect these players to do? If, for instance, you have gone to train and you are not sure about your next meal, or you are going out for a league match, an away league match, it is a month end like now, and you are not so sure whether you will go and come back to find that the landlord has not put a padlock on your door. So in such kind of an environment, you will not find that the players have the mental, tranquility to be able to concentrate fully on what they do and give their best. If you take the criteria, for instance, on the technical ability, it is now that they are trying to, ensure that the criteria, the technical ability and capability of those handling our teams is erased. If for, like this season, if you do not have in possession of a CAF-A license, then you cannot be, engaged as a head coach in the amongst the Premier League clubs. Yeah. If you look at, say, the issue to do with the youth structures, how many of our clubs, have stand-alone youth teams? You can count them. Others do more or less a sing-song like what the musicians from DRC do. When there's need, you go and pick players from different, setups to be able to come up. Now, unlike what we used to do a couple of years ago, you remember under the auspices of KPL, we had the top 8, and we also had the youth, tournaments, which ensured that each and every club participating in the Premier League had to establish a vibrant youth outfit, because that is where the development happens. It ensures a constant supply of talent to the senior teams, and 2, those that do not make it to the respective senior teams also have the opportunity to join other or to be scouted and recruited by other teams, which also, forms a revenue stream for these particular clubs. In an event that members of the youth or players from the youth outfits make it to the professional outfits, you also find that we have both the solidarity compensation and the training and development coming to the respective senior teams. So these are some of the benefits that can be, can accrue if we ensure that we employ the club licensing criteria to the tilt.
In respective to schools, if at all there would be a transfer maybe sometimes later, where does this development fee or the solidarity fee for the player goes to, or is channeled to?
That is why there is an attempt, we started it way back at the Federation and the subsequent regimes. I think also particularly in the regime under the former President Nick Mwendwa, also took cue to establish what we call talent centers. Some of these schools have been turned into talent centers, or in the simpler words, academies. Once they are registered with the Federation, it means that with the dictates of both solidarity and training and development, it means that if we develop a player passport, the player is supposed to be tracked from age 12. Now, a player who is 12 years old definitely is still in schools. So there is need for that symbiosis, the interconnectivity of, the Federation together with both the secondary schools and the primary schools. And that's why I have periodically, suggested, occasioned the fact that we need to amend the FKF Constitution so that we have the Kenya Primary School Sports Association and the Kenya Secondary School Sports Association and even the Kenya Colleges Sports Association as members of the Federation, so that we can be able to have a pool of players right from age 12. That will also enable the Federation, because the Federation is the mother of all football in the country, to be able to come up in conjunction. If the Kenya Football Coaches Association was also vibrant and as a member of the Federation, they would work in tandem in order to go out and scout talented players from the golden age, which is age 12. At the same time, once we have several top schools turned into academies, we can easily monitor what happens in such kind of schools, which in my view should be spread regionally, so that we give an opportunity to players with talent from, say, Northeastern, Eastern, Western, Nyanza, all over. That will endear us to develop players moving forward.
Finally, give us your expectation in the Kenyan group, how the groupings have been done for CHAN competitions.
Well, the Kenya is in Group A with Morocco, DRC, Zambia, and Angola. I mentioned last week that I believe it is the Moroccan league, domestic league, which is vibrant. But football being what it is, you never know. Our boys can rise up to the occasion. let us see, we will be able to judge our performance or our ultimate performance at the end of 90 minutes on the 3rd of August. Moving forward, we'll be able to know whether we will be competing or we shall have just participated in CHAN, as well as being the hosts for the 2024 CAF CHAN tournament.
Thank you so much.
That's
It's a pleasure having you.
Santa.